Hello and welcome to the LaLanne Pass It On podcast, where we celebrate the fitness values of health, strength, and service that Jack and Elaine LaLanne have inspired for generations. Today's guest is a true force in the world of health and fitness. Liz Clark is the president and CEO of the Health and Fitness Association, the global trade association representing the entire health club industry. She is a dynamic leader with a powerful vision for the future of wellness. Liz is championing innovation and resilience in a world that needs that more now than ever. Under her leadership, the association has expanded its reach, amplified its voice, and reinforced the essential role fitness plays in preventative health care. She's not just leading the charge, she's setting the standard. Liz is also a passionate advocate for honoring the pioneers who paved the way, like Jack and Elaine LaLanne, and ensuring that their legacy inspires the next generation of health leaders. We're thrilled to have her here today to talk about legacy, leadership, and what it means to truly pass it on. Liz, welcome to the podcast.
Greg, thank you so much for having me, Lala. This is the highlight of my month. I can't wait to be here and to chat with such a legend, and to just be on the same screen with you is such an honor.
Well, it's an honor to meet you, Liz. I've heard so much about you, and now I know the person that behind the National Fitness Association, formerly URSA, right?
Yes, yeah.
I still call it URSA once in a while.
And, that's okay. I think that, listen, that's what we were founded as 45 years ago. It was a different industry. And as you know, it's evolving. It's evolving, I think, quicker today than it was. And so when we decided to change the name to the Health and Fitness Association, it was a pretty deliberate conversation. It wasn't something off the cuff. And we just said it's time to modernize a little bit, and also using that word, health and fitness, to create a bigger home for everybody that's in our space. Not so narrow as, racket sports and all the things that we reflected before. So definitely honored the past, and I think what I'm most proud of is that those that were the founders of the organization have sort of blessed the new name. And but it was why even little we kept the colors the same, that type of thing. So
I still keep in touch with Norm Cates. I still keep in touch with him.
Yes, I know. I love his publication, and now his son Justin is involved. And
yes, his son. Yeah. Right. Well, you know what, Liz, I'm always curious. I got into this business because I met Jack, and I didn't have any, what did I know about fitness? I mean, I was a swimmer in the Minneapolis Aqua Follies. I was always an athlete, but I didn't pay much attention to what I was eating or anything else. And I want to know how you were motivated, how you got into this business, and what motivated you to get into it.
So Lala, my story is probably a little bit different because I run the trade association, right? So I'm not necessarily running a gym, running a fitness center. We're running sort of the home for everybody, and we're running the advocacy department. So what first, has brought me so much passion is advocating for industries and issues that I really care about, and doing that in a way that helps make sure that lawmakers see us as essential. They see us as relevant business people, relevant employers. But we also so happen to be doing a really important thing, which is making people live longer, healthier lives. And so as somebody that's been a lifelong athlete, I mean, I started as a little kid, snow skiing, water skiing, playing tennis, all kinds of outdoor stuff up until college or high school. I was a 3 varsity athlete. in high school, and then in college, I was on the crew team. So I've always had such a passion for sport and movement and making sure that I was in shape to be able to do all of those things, and really motivated and driven by that. So to be able to marry that passion that I personally have with the advocating for an industry that's really important has been something very, very special for me. It hasn't been the easiest road, just because our industry was frankly left behind, when the rubber met the road, in COVID. And we can talk about that, or we don't need to, but that's what brought me, really to it. And what keeps me motivated every day is when I see what our members are doing, and when I go and I work out in their clubs and I see the communities that they've built and the new modalities that they're, celebrating and experimenting with sometimes. And then I think we look too to the future of what recovery means is going to be really interesting, and how that fits in our space. I was just earlier today talking to somebody, a big chain out of Europe, and they said, we'd love to know what people are doing when they go into our clubs. And because they know they come through the door, and then you might know they go to a group exercise class, but you don't know if they're getting on the treadmill or if they're going to stretch. And I think all those things are going to be important as we look to what we're measuring and where we go in the future. So
Not everybody wants to be a leader, never. And so what prompted you to take on the leadership of a leadership role?
well, that's a huge question. Yes, I think a few things. I don't want to say I was born a leader, but I will say my dad was a Marine Corps drill instructor. And so my dad, instilled from a very young age discipline, follow the rules, have a plan, respect your body, all those type of things is what, led me to this. And then as a young child, my parents gave me a lot of responsibility. We ran a small business in Montana, and I started working in our family business when I was 9. And so I've had a job from a really early age of doing things, and had a lot of responsibility put on me. So did I know that I could be a leader? Not necessarily. I think sometimes there's a little fake it till you make it. But I did believe, in my heart that we would get there. And what is so special about this industry is the support, from everybody that just wants to see a rising tide lifts all boats. And if I can be the leader, frankly, that's a pretty easy thing to lead. So it's an honor, quite honestly.
Especially when you have such a strong feeling from your heart. See, I believe everything starts in your heart. You have to really believe. Jack was a great one in believing. I mean, on all our lectures, I'd say, oh, he was a dynamic speaker. And I'd say, how many people believe Jack believes? And they'd all raise their hand. And then I said, how would you like to hear him sing, I believe? And then they go, and then he'd sing a cappella, I believe, and then that's how we got our standing ovations. He was dynamite, right on key.
Oh man, well, don't make me sing. I'll tell you, I'll do a lot of things. That's not in my repertoire.
Well, hey, Liz, you've had a diverse career. What lessons from your past leadership roles have most impacted how you guide the association today?
Yeah, great, great question. So I think one of the things that I've really learned, and it's about putting yourself in the eyes of policymakers and the people that are going to make the laws and the regulations around us. And how do you do that in a way that is not restrictive to our business operations, and that frankly embraces all that we do? And what I've really learned throughout my time is that it is about relationships. And it is about creating relationships, not only within our industry, which we have so many fabulous relationships of supplier community, brick and mortar communities, studios, HVLPs, everybody, but relationships with our lawmakers. And that's, having been in Washington, D.C. for my entire career, I've really learned that. And I've learned you've got to make relationships on both sides, because just as what a White House that we're dealing with right now, we could be in a much different seat than that in 3 years. So it's important to be at the table, to make sure that you are trusted as an advisor to these folks, and it's really powerful. And so part of that is you've got to have the data to back up what you're doing. You got to have the research, you got to have the stories, and then not only me as an organization need a relationship, but all of our whole industry. And that's what I hope that I'm teaching our industry, is that nobody's going to do this job for you. But if you reach out and if you proactively start to create a relationship with your mayor or with your governor, with your senator, they'll be there to help you out. But you just got to take the first step.
This industry is one step at a time, you know. And what trends have you seen since you've been in this business? What trends have you seen shift around or change, or
So
has it really?
right. No, I think even in the short time, it's only been 4 years that I've been in this role. And what I've seen since I kind of got here to today is almost everything that's old is new again. So the popularity, right, of cold plunges, the popularity of free weights, the popularity of all that stuff, and we look at what our members are doing, getting a lot of that cardio equipment out. And so that's what I see today. I don't know what you see,
I
Lala.
believe I was just thinking about that the other day. I totally agree with you. You know, Jack used to say, "There's really nothing new on earth. It's just a different way of saying it."
Yeah. Well, listen, there's definitely some new cool stuff for
Oh,
sure,
there's
right?
the innovations, you know. In other words, you can have a new ovation of an exercise, or you can have a little ovation over here, or you have a piece of equipment that you got a new little uh, something different on. So but it's really when it comes down to the basic, it's pretty basic.
That's what I think. Right. And there's
You know?
always, I believe, going to be an evolution of modalities. You know, obviously Pilates is hot right now. Yoga has sort of stood the test of time. You look at sort of the Zumba, the jazzercises. I think all of those have sort of ebbs and flows and certain followings, and really interesting, certain followings around the world.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we see here in the US that are super hot, super popular is not the case necessarily around the world. And you know, cycling classes, I go to Brazil next week, and every time I'm there, like I can't, they're standing room only in the cycling class. Like what? Like why are you even in that room if you're not on a cycle? But that's a different conversation. So that's, I think, what we're seeing a little bit, which is really fun. And then the other piece is we're seeing a gravitation, which I find to be really interesting, to either HVLP, high value, low price. So sort of the operators that are, you know, in the $10 to $20 a month range. And then a big gravitation to high end, high luxury experience. And then I think everyone in the middle is trying to figure out what that is. But those two sectors are really, really exploding for totally different reasons. But I think it's been fun to watch.
Well, and Greg has been in this business. His business. When did you start, Greg? No.
So we're in our 40th year in business at my club. So yeah, we've had a pretty good run and have gone through all those trends, ups and downs. And it's funny, Liz, you mentioned the cold plunge, and I immediately envisioned Jack in the 1950s preparing for some of his swims in a bathtub with Elaine pouring ice into the tub.
50 pounds of
Yeah.
ice.
And so it's like that has been around forever.
We
And
have
the
we have a film
technology.
of that.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've got footage
Yeah.
of that. It's amazing. But you know, as you said, everything old is new again. And it's just fascinating to think where we are with the technology of the cold plunge these days. And I've got a question relative to that because Jack and Elaine they were pioneers of preventative health.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that. How do you see their legacy influencing today's health and fitness culture?
Yeah, listen, I think that yes, you're pioneers to this, and you have created the narrative, quite frankly. I mean, that what people are doing is preventative healthcare, and you knew this early on. And I think one of the things that we're working at as the association is to make sure we continue that narrative, that conversation. Where we've seen in the past a little bit was, what motivates people to exercise? And is it because you want to look good in a bathing suit? Yes. But do you also want to live longer, live healthier, and be doing exercising for your mental health? And I think you were all of those things to have the foresight to say it's not just about looking good, it's also about living a long, healthy, happy life. And just two total models of that, which I think have really been the platform. I mean, Greg, you said, I mean, you've been in the industry 40 years. The industry is not much older than that. Like, I mean, when it finally, obviously, Jack and Elaine, pioneers, but once the industry finally got organized into being something people could have their heads around, it really, we've got a lot of, opportunity ahead of us. And I think we just have to be so thankful and grateful for the work that Jack and Elaine did to also have a message that exercise is attainable. It's not only for the elite, which of course, I mean,
Exercise is king, nutrition's queen. Put them together and you got a kingdom. That's Jack.
there you go. Right?
Jack was a one-liner, I mean, he was very succinct. I mean, he'd give you one line and that's it. Jack, I don't know. I don't feel like exercising. I don't need to exercise. Think of the results was his answer. you know, he always had a one-liner to come up with.
I envy that. That's awesome. I know I have a friend who just wrote a book and just about the power of lifting, and especially for women, and women lifting themselves out of challenging spots in their life, and just what strength means. And I think that's a really important message that again began with the LaLanne so long ago, and that results are achievable. I mean,
Yes.
I don't think everybody was going to look like Jack the minute they started going to the gym, but if you go with some regularity and you stay focused, look what happened.
Well, Jack was, you mentioned when you were growing up, discipline in your life. And speaking of writing a book, and I wrote, that's how I met Greg. he heard Jack's one-liner of pride and discipline. Pride in what you pride in your in life, and the discipline to carry it through, and the work that you're doing is carrying it through. And the pride and discipline is not just about that, but it's about the mind. He was great on the mind. That's how we met. I mean, when we first had a date and went out to dinner and with his friends, we talked about the mind. And so all through this book that I wrote with Greg is Pride and Discipline is about writings of Jack and how he brings in how important the mind is. The mind is a mine. You've heard me say this before. People have. Mine is a mine. It's full of diamonds, and all you need to do is dig them up. Quote Jack LaLanne. I've learned everything I learned from him because he was my teacher. And not that he was trying to teach me, but I learned from him. When you hear this 24/7, every day at the dinner table and everything else, it's gotta go in here somewhere.
And then you finally gave up your chocolate donuts.
He said the only thing good about the donut is the hole in the middle, you know. Another one-liner.
I know. Did he ever have a donut? I don't know. I don't know that I agree that, yeah.
No, I used to come into the KGOT because that's how I met him. I was on an hour and a half show every day from 4:30 to 6. I booked all the guests. I booked and I put down I got all the guests, and I was also the girl. Well, in those days I was a girl. They called me a girl Friday, but I was really a co-host. And that's how I met him. And then I had him on as an interview, not on his interview, but he did push-ups through our whole hour and a half show. And then we had a 12-piece orchestra left over from radio. And then as he was going up and down every now and again, we'd have a little music going up and down. But
Was he
an
talking
hour and a
during
half, he did
push-ups?
push-ups.
But hey, Liz, we've talked about legacy and we've talked about innovation, but how can legacy and innovation work together to push the industry forward?
Oh, that's a great question. You know what I think is important is looking at the next generation. Because they're the innovators and they're thirsty for mentorship, for leadership. You know, the legacy folks have made all the bad decisions, learned all the learnings, and really know about best practices. So I think if we can marry a little of that legacy with the young innovator, you know, in a mentorship program, I think could be really powerful. You know, I think we also have to look at what these innovators are motivated by, because you know, we're seeing a lot of for example, innovation in wearables and measurables, right? The rings, the watches, the monitors, and all that, and how can we be using that for good, and how can we be sort of looking at what we've known from a legacy perspective to use that to help bring us to the next phase, but also be cognizant and mindful of how do we do that without alienating everybody in the population that might be intimidated by that. So that's one of the things I talk a lot about, is that so many of us are believers, we're in the industry and this is fabulous. But what do we do to get, you know, what do we do to get at least the next 5% of America off the couch? And I think it has to be attainable. It has to be fun. I think sport is a really interesting part of this conversation. I'll tell you, I golf, and I went last night to go buy some new golf clothes, and the store I went to was
What's
no
your
longer selling.
handicap?
Yeah, I know.
I'm a golfer. I was.
Yes. See, I knew, Lala, you and I. But last night, the store only had pickleball clothing, and I thought that's great. I mean, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America, and it is getting sort of a population off the couch that hasn't been, because it's not an intimidating thing. Now, are there problems with it? Are there injuries? Of course, yes, yes, yes. But overall, does the good outweigh the bad? 1,000%. So I think it's about, again, what are those modalities on the innovation side? I mean, pickleball hasn't been on this, I mean, maybe 5 years, right? And again, it's the fastest growing sport. So I think it's looking at that and marrying it up where we can. And then looking through, you know, the studio community are doing so many innovative things with trainers, and you know, we've seen now some operations that are only for trainers. They're gyms that are not open to the public. They're only open for personal training sessions. And what does that look like? I think it's fascinating. And I think we're just going to continue to see a lot of different business models. And I think most will work, some won't. And that depends on your market research. It depends on your real estate agreements, your competition. And I just think it's a really exciting time to be in fitness.
It is. And, you know, you had mentioned the technology, the wearables, you know, the rings and all of that stuff. And interestingly enough, it's changing not just for the consumer, but for the professional as well. My background is in the personal fitness training industry, and there are a lot of trainers that are threatened by that technology, thinking that the watch and the rings are going to take over what they have been doing. But my pitch to them is no, that's just going to enhance your ability to help your trainer, because it's a relational business. And when you connect with somebody, it goes way beyond the technology. So use that and leverage it to benefit your training business. So don't be afraid as a fitness professional with technology. Embrace it and use it to your advantage.
Exactly. I mean, there's never going to be an app that can replicate
No.
what a person can do. There's never going to be a program online that can replicate what an in-person can do. It just won't be. Maybe there's going to be a subset of folks that gravitate toward that, and that's great too. But on a whole, I don't think we need to be worried about that. I think where we have an opportunity and where we as an organization are going to work is a standardization of all of that technology, because it is a little bit of the wild, wild west. What each one of these things are monitoring. And even if you look at a treadmill, for example, you could walk a mile on one brand of treadmill and it'll tell you how many calories, but another brand of treadmill might not be the same. So we got some work to do with the standardization. It's not fun, it's not sexy, but it's something that we're going to get to work on as an industry, just because it's more about just the professionalization and the modernization of the industry, and it's time.
It's all a learning process. Um, you talk about golf. What do you learn from golf? You can't take the shot over in life. I couldn't bring my daughter back after an automobile accident. I can't. You learn that. You can't take that shot over. You learn from your working out. I learned so much. I'm still learning it, almost 100 years old. I'm still learning stuff about my body. Oh, I'm going to try this part, and I'm going to try that. I'm going to try. I think this, and especially as you get older, your hands, you get a little stiff. Your leg gets a little stiffer, and so I'm learning all the time about my body, and a lot of people don't even when they're even doing an exercise. So if they're doing, I've gone to gyms with Jack, in New York, and he walks in and the people are waiting to interview him, and so he walks by and this guy's doing something with the weights and whatnot. He says, "Oh, that's not right. You've got to go full contraction and extension and contraction, full. You don't go like this." And I saw the other day, I saw somebody doing push-ups and they're going like this. And if you're gonna do a push-up, you do the whole thing. And so those are things that it's a learning process too. You just
Yeah.
think about your body. What are you learning about your body? I do this, I show this all the time. Okay, you put your hand up and down like this. Okay, nothing's happening. But the minute you put force on it, you try to do it really slow, this muscle pops up, you know. So I think this is what we have to think about with what we're learning in this.
Well, and I think
Our exercises.
Yeah, and I think that there are people in this industry, you and Jack especially, there are eternal students and there were like eternal teachers, right? And I think Jack was one of those eternal teachers, and you are an eternal student. I put myself also in the sort of eternal student. I'm a really curious person. I want to know, oh, did I do that rep the right way? And am I holding this the right way? And you gotta ask questions and you gotta be curious. And
I don't know if a lot of people knew, because he never, during when he became a chiropractor and he graduated from chiropractic college, he couldn't tell anybody that he was a chiropractor because he had medical doctors working out at his gym, so there's no he couldn't discuss that, but his background in the workings of the body, he knew every bone, every ligament, every tendon, and that helped make him and when he designed the leg extension machine, the squat machine, which is now the Smith machine. So those are things that he learned through his knowledge of chiropractic, or the knowledge of the body, workings of the body.
To that point, Liz, how do you think we can better celebrate pioneers in the industry while encouraging the rising stars?
Well, I think that we need to just first take a minute. We just started this Health and Fitness Hall of Fame last year. So we're just getting it started. And the fact that, Elaine is in our second class is tremendous. And so I think it's important that we first recognize, I think a lot of our companies are doing this within their companies. For example, the Gold's Gym is having their 60th anniversary next week. All of the big brands and so I think it's important that the brands celebrate the journeys that they've all had, but that we bring those together under one roof. That's the beauty of me at the association. And so I think, we need to know these stories, we need to share these stories, and we need to get the megaphones, the mouthpieces, the Lalas out there that can be shouting this from the rooftop that, we're here not necessarily for vanity, but we're here for health and longevity. And that's what life is all about. And if you've got that, you have everything. So I think, doing that and then exposing just what these legends have done for this industry, for again, these newcomers coming in and helping these newcomers learn more business models. How do you get somebody that's interested in personal training to then go on and get maybe an additional degree on something else so that they can hopefully one day open and run their own gym if that's what they want to do? How do we continue to elevate that? And I have those conversations all the time. I have those conversations with the female community. I have those conversations with the African American community. There's all sorts of opportunities within various circles for us to come together all under one roof. So it's an honor for me to provide the roof, but I wouldn't have anybody in it if I didn't have the Lalas, that are coming to the party. So I think it's a great opportunity that we're really just getting started, and it's great to see. I've got even members of our industry that have stepped up and they want to celebrate and they want to support this Hall of Fame event financially to take the burden off of us, just because they realize how important this is as well. So it's really fantastic, and it'll go to our